So if you've been watching my channel for a while, you know I'm very critical of Microsoft and the Xbox brand and certain decisions that they're making, which has given me this reputation of being anti-Microsoft and a Sony fanboy, even though I've made it clear multiple times I have no intentions of buying a PlayStation 5 or a Series X. But for those of you who try to say that I'm not critical enough of Sony, well, this video's for you because we're going to be ripping on Sony in this video, because it was recently revealed that the DualShock 4 controller will not work on PlayStation 5. Well, that's actually half true and half not, because you can use the DualShock 4 controller on PS4 backwards compatible games, but you cannot use the DualShock controller on any PlayStation 5 games. So that means if you want to get a second controller, you can't just reuse the old ones, you have to go out and buy another one, which would run you $60 at a minimum. But then how about the people who got the $200 scuff controllers? Now those controllers are useless. But I was looking at Twitter and see a whole bunch of people defending Sony, saying, oh, it's not a big deal, you know, you couldn't use the DualShock 2 on the PS3 and you couldn't use the DualShock 3 on the PS4. So why are people making a big deal out of this? Because this is something that's always been happening with the PlayStation consoles, that you couldn't use the last controller on the last console for your new console, right? So that's something that people are always saying, that's their main justification for Sony doing this, that this isn't anything new, Sony's always done it, so that means it's okay. Two things I have to say about that. First of all, when you're talking about the DualShock 2 and DualShock 3, there's pretty much no difference, except the DualShock 3 has even worse triggers than the PS2's controller. So it's not like you had too many people that even wanted to use the DualShock 2 on the PS3, and there was certainly nobody that wanted to use the PS3 controller on the PS4, because the PS4 controller is just so much better than the PS3 controller and the PS2 controller. So when people try to bring up the past saying, oh, well, Sony did it before, so it doesn't matter if they do it now. Well, first of all, it's a lot different now because people actually want to use the DualShock 4 on the PS5. There was nobody that wanted to use the DualShock 2 on PS3. Definitely nobody that wanted to use the DualShock 3 on the PS4. So that's just a shitty argument. It makes no sense. And here's the other thing. Is there really enough of a difference between the DualShock 4 and DualSense to justify not allowing the DualShock 4 controller to be compatible on PS5 games? Like, sure, the DualSense looks more comfortable. It might be a better controller than the DualShock 4, but Sony was trying to say that there are all these features that the DualSense has that you just can't do it on a DualShock 4. For PS5 games. I just don't buy that argument. It's obviously Sony being greedy. They want people to buy the DualSense controller. They don't want people reusing their old controllers. That's pretty much what it comes down to. Sony wants to maximize profit. And that's fine. They're a business. That's pretty much what their purpose is. A business is meant to make as much money as they possibly can. My issue is with the stupid asses on Twitter that don't realize that Sony is being really greedy, and that they're only able to get away with this shit because these dumbasses keep supporting it no matter what. They support Sony and PlayStation no matter what. But what I find hilarious about these fanboys is that whenever Microsoft does something with the Xbox that makes PlayStation look good, like the Xbox One and Series X not having any meaningful exclusives, Halo Infinite looking like shit, you know, the Sony fanboys are always quick to jump on shit like that. But when Sony does something wrong, they're fucking radio silent because they're fanboys. And Sony can never do anything wrong. And if you can't see that Sony is wrong in this case, then you're a mindless fanboy. That's pretty much what it is. It's also worth mentioning that the Xbox One controller, any Xbox One controller will work just fine on the Series X. You'll be able to play any game that you want. You won't just be stuck to playing Xbox One games. No, you can also play Series X games on the Series X with an Xbox One controller. And you can also use the Series X controller on the Xbox One. What's your excuse for that, Sony fanboys? You're gonna try to say, oh, well, but the DualSense is so much better than the Series X controller, and it's gonna be the greatest controller of all time, and the PS4 controller just can't handle the greatness of the PS5. Like, you're gonna see shit like that. I'm probably gonna see shit like that in the comments because these fanboys are so fucking delusional. They can never be wrong. Sony can never look bad, and don't get me wrong. You got Xbox fanboys that are just as bad, and Nintendo fanboys, even PC fanboys. No matter what platform they represent, fanboys are a cancer to the video game community, and they always need to be called out. And that's what I'm going to keep doing. It's funny, people thought that by 9th generation, the console fanboy would die out. You wouldn't have these PlayStation, Xbox fanboys keep arguing with each other after all these years, but they're still going strong. But at least back then on the PS3 and 360 era, they actually had something to argue about because the PS3 and 360 were both amazing consoles. Even the Nintendo and Sega fanboys back in the day, with the Genesis and the Super Nintendo, those were also two amazing consoles. But right now, what are you guys even fighting for? The PS4 and Xbox One are both awful consoles. At this point, if you're trying to argue about whether or not the PlayStation is better than the Xbox or the Xbox is better than the PlayStation, like, do you fanboys not realize that both of your consoles are shit? Even if you want to argue that the PS4 was better than the Xbox One because you had better exclusives, it's like comparing a solid pile of shit to diarrhea. It's still shit either way. So whether you're a PlayStation fanboy or an Xbox fanboy, Nintendo fanboy, Google Stadia fanboy, doesn't matter. You all just need to shut the fuck up.